So the afternoon is really focused on getting on with some stuff and practical things you can do yourselves to make change happen. This is just a photograph. I was in school in Adelaide this week and showed them Juliet's classroom with the kids writing on the walls and the desks and so on. And I came back the next day, and as you can see, the kids had already started. And just whiteboard pens on a white desk. Of course, having written like that, it was interesting. Immediately they had a sense of audience for what they were writing, and they whipped their phones out and took pictures, so they had copies of it. It worked extraordinarily well. And they'd also taken their shoes off because they'd heard all that stuff about taking their shoes off working so well. So that's what we're going to do right now. So you need to take your shoes off at this point. That's the only item of clothing I'm going to ask you to remove. So well, for now, you know. So it's properly shoes off for everybody, really. And don't worry about verrucas and can't take them off. They'll be fine. Now I need you to police your own table, so you just need to check that everybody's really done that and you haven't got anybody still wedded to their Dr. Martens or their stilettos or whatever, you know. Of course, if you were doing this in school, you'd never ever do it like that. You'd always give people a couple of days' notice because you know, there's nothing more embarrassing than being the one remembered for the whole of school as having a hole in his sock or whatever, or some growth on your toe, you know. So a bit of notice, but that feels better already, doesn't it? You can feel, when you say that to teenagers, their response is always the same. They say, oh, thank God. They just love it. And it does change the whole atmosphere. Plus it stops you running away outside, you know, which is good, you know. So I'm going to just pick feature a number of things that schools have tried around the world within their communities. Third millennium here, we've scampered on from 21st century learning, really. I'm just going to tell you what they did, and you're going to take away some of these things maybe, but crucially, I'm just going to do this briefly. Then on your table, you're going to think of something you're going to take right back and make change happen tomorrow, something you're actually going to do. No yes buts, no if only we had the funding, no, just practical stuff you can do right now. And I would say just strongly about the funding, I think if you play back all the videos I've ever spoken on, all the notes, all the chaotic website, I'd stand accused, you know, rightly. I haven't ever said this costs a lot of money. I'm busy building a school on the south coast of England. It was one of our old academies. Do you remember that the British government, the old Labour government, the Blair government, committed to rebuilding every single secondary school in the country and got cracking on that project? Of course, it ended when we changed governments. Nobody liked somebody else's project. So the £28 million budget I had to build a new school was cut quite significantly. Was actually cut by 28 million, which is quite quite a big cut. But by then I'd already had a word with the granddaughter who wanted. She said she wanted a DISCO, she wanted a swimming pool and red sparkly bits. So I was already committed that far to the school, you know. So we built a new school for 1,800 kids. We're building it. It opens just after Christmas. And we've done it with no money at all, no capital at all. I've done it by moving it into the business park that was just about to fold. I've taken over a big swathe of a hotel, a swimming pool, a whole lot of other stuff. I say you know, I'm just a part of a huge team of people. This was the head teachers on the island. This was Rod Aldridge's extraordinary foundation and so on. So between us, we're building a new school for 1,800 children currently with no money. And I'll say honestly, at this stage, it's going to be better than it would have been if we'd have spent the 28 million on it. So, you know, this doesn't take a lot of money. It does crucially need partnerships and relationships. The key question from the Oracle table about how do we join in, you know, has to be about what do we get back to. It's got to be a partnership. What you get back is great learning. I remember showing your Larry Ellison some cool stuff we did with software, and him dancing around his office with joy, saying, "This is what we can do with technology. I've been telling them, nobody listens." You know, he's just a big kid too. You know, so there's a place for partnership. So let's quick scamper some of the things that others have been doing. Take some of these away. After this, you're going to talk on your tables briefly and come up with an idea which you're going to commit to. I'm going to come running around with the microphone, and you're going to commit to it. After you've committed it, somebody's going to go up to the camera and say it into camera, so we've got a real sense of the change that's come out of today. So you might be grooming one of you now for, you know, for media stardom. I get, because I'm a BAFTA BAFTA film judge, I'm on the BAFTA trustees, so I get to party with Mickey Rourke. So let me tell you, you don't have to groom yourself all that much. You'll be okay, you know. Just keep your trousers on will be enough. Right, so here we go. Here's some things that people have tried. They've all worked. So this is the up in East Kilbride, and in each case, I've tried to give you the search term. So if you just want to go and find it again, just Google for it. These are all things I've had some involvement with, of course, and sometimes minor involvement, sometimes it was all me. The Consolarium up in East Kilbride, the kids play on their Nintendo DSs just before school starts every morning. They do Big Brain Academy, they do brain training, they have a half class set, so it's cost them, I don't know, 12 Nintendo DSs, which is not a lot of money. And how has it worked? Well, it's worked in all sorts of interesting ways. They have a ladder for the best 10 scores in the school. None of the staff are on it. They'd like to be, not for want of trying. I said to one of the little girls, "Why is this working so well?" And she said, and I quote, "Because it's cool to be brainy around here now." It's a great thing to hear back from children, you know. It just changed the expectation. It changed the, you know, the social excitement of the day was about performance. And big brain training doesn't make your brain sharper. It does sharpen you up, you know, non-verbal reasoning, arithmetic, and so on. But it was the systemic change to the culture of the place that changed much. Here's the next one. They're all this fast. This is the Great Learnover. Had a lot of fun with this. This was last year. We had 22 schools around the world. They went into their schools. The kids, they tried to do a sleepover for 24 hours. And each hour, one school came online and walked around with their, you know, iPads or netbooks or whatever, and on Skype, simple Skype. You know, video conferencing is not expensive anymore. I used to be chairman of the European Video Conferencing Federation. Used to be wined and dined by Polycom and people like that, huge amounts of money. The best bit of kit I've seen in schools in the last 12 months, the little Polycom communicator at $80. It got all the circuitry that those huge Polycom suites used to have in it. Does all the, cleans the audio, does all the work you need. Completely fab. But the Great Learnover were just schools Skyping. So each hour, one school Skyped to the others and said, "Let's show you how our school works. Let's show you what we're doing with immersion. Let's show you our mixed age teaching. Let's show you that our kids are running the dining hall. Let's show you that we haven't got one." You know, they're all interesting schools. And next year we're repeating it, one a month. So you'll be able to dial into it. We're using Adobe software, which is very cool at the moment. And you'll just be able to dial in and watch. It's all going to be archived. So you will have a monthly cool school somewhere for sure. Some of them will be in this country for certain. Some of them will be in this state, you know, and you'll see what they're doing and be able to borrow their right. This is all about, there is no model. There is no, find me a school, I'll copy it and we'll do it. It doesn't exist, you know. Everybody's tested out the ingredients of great learning. You've just got to reach out for the ingredients, bring them home, build a local recipe that works for your school, your context, your community, and keep varying the recipe. You wouldn't go to a restaurant, have the same menu day in, day out. So keeping it fresh is about finding new ingredients. Okay, the Great Learnover, learnover.net, I think. EduQuest, this was a great project did with Apple in Singapore, where we simply gave kids video cameras and we gave 10-year-olds the science curriculum from 14-year-olds. And we thought, I wonder if, actually we went down a year at a time. The hypothesis was, I wonder if it's the writing up of the science that's standing in the way of the science, not the understanding, not the conceptual stuff, and the kids wrote up their science experiments with a video camera. You know, experimental error, what we're going to do next, what we found, data visualization, the whole bit, they did it to video, they didn't pick up a pen and paper. The net result of that was that, well, we stopped at 10 because, you know, 14, 13, 12, 11, 10, we stopped at 10, project had been going on long enough. I don't doubt we probably would have kept going down to 8. as a result of that, Singapore's put a science lab in every single primary school in the country, because they know that the kids are capable of doing work way earlier than they thought. So just try it, you know, pick a bit of the curriculum from way up the school, bring it on down. I'm external examiner, just finished for the Open University's technology courses, and their T180 course, which is all about computer viruses. It's quite an interesting course. 19% of the students on it are school-age kids. You might speculate why they want to write viruses, but it's a whole other thing, you know. But that's, you know, that's 1 in 5 on an Open University degree are kids at school. So, you know, find a place in the curriculum where you can get the kids doing stuff really early and see how early that works really, really well. Here's another one. This is, well, this is pretty cute. This is kids Skyping to each other and swapping projects with each other. And I just take a moment to show you the project that they've been swapping, because it was a great one. This was a simple little project where we went out and captured 100 faces, and each face represented a number in a sequence that was a century. So that's a 1-year-old, a 2-year-old, a 3-year-old, a 4-year-old, and so on. Actually, I'll let this run because this is your life going past here. It's a bit depressing because you'll see it all's all over by the time you're 20, really. So it's, you know, happy, smiling faces, all jolly. And you think what they had to do to go out in the community and find 100 people. They had to find a 98-year-old. And look at this stress coming in at the end of your 20s. It's all pretty sad, isn't it, really? His hair's all gone on looks, you know. These are primary age kids. They did it. They learned loads of things from it. I mean, of course, you know, they learned about the phases in our lives. They learned about diet. They learned, they couldn't find anybody who's 54. Where's their 50? Nobody would admit to being 50. Anybody in the room 54? Oh, look, brave fellow, you know. You're good for your age, actually. This fellow was 53 when they photographed him, became 54 while they were looking for a 54-year-old, you know. They said, well, you can spot the smokers. They said, you can, because the smokers all appear out of sequence. Let's find the next smoker here. There'll be, there's one, look, there she is. You know, she's just out of sequence because, you know, what smoking does to your complexion, you know. You could tell kids that till the cows come in. When they saw it going past, it was starkly, horribly true. It's also really interesting just how sharp and alert people are at the end of their century. So these fellows are sort of hanging on in there at 80, but you look at this lot at 91, 92, 93, 94, 90. Look how sharp they are. These are primary kids. They said to this poor old bloke, they said, aren't you afraid you're going to die because you're 95? And they're primary kids, you know. And he leant forward, he said, hey, he said, I've got a better chance of being 96 than any one of you. But when we took that project and shared it around the world, then it got to be really interesting because we couldn't find 100 people in West Africa. We couldn't find 100 people in great swathes of the world. You didn't make the century. You know? So kids joining up with each other, using Skype or whatever, is just like building that sense of other in your school. Works really well. Every screen in your school, when it's not being used, just turn on streaming, BBC News, Al Jazeera, Russian TV. They're all subtitled, so you just run the news from around the world with the subtitles and the sound off. It gives you that sense that you're a little hub on the other, you know, on the other side of the world, but you're a mouse click away from everywhere. You know. So here's the next one. This is. I won't dwell on that. We've sort of half talked about that. This is closing the staff rooms is really interesting. Just have a month where you don't have a staff room. The kids come into the staff room, you go into their space. If everybody in the institution's a learner, why would you have a special room for the old folk? It doesn't make a lot of sense, does it? So just try, you know, turn the place into a chill out space, turn it into a coffee bar where the kids can come, see what happens. You know. Heaps of schools have tried it, and a lot of them keep it like that. You know, don't ever go back. So you still need marking place, still need quiet spaces. Do you need a special room? Well, try it. You know, here's another one. Super classes. You know, I got thrown out of the National Union of Teachers as a young teacher for being quite slightly overzealous in defence of small classes. You know, no child should be taught in a class of more than 18. I marched on government to try and persuade them, and was promptly thrown out of my union, which I thought was a bit harsh. You know, but now I find myself speaking up for really large classes. They're fab. You know, super classes, How do they work, by the way? I mean, just Google superclass, but how they work is really interesting. It's about the detail. So imagine you were a class. How many people are in the room here, Paul? What sort of numbers? How many people here? About 200. So I guess we got 2 classes in here, you know. So imagine this is a class here, and you know, you 3 are their teachers here. How does it work? Well, if you teach a lesson, you do marking, you slope off and do some photocopying, it's a disaster, you know. It's like Rorke's drift, you know. If, on the other hand, you have key roles, and you as a class know what those roles are, and the roles are, you know, you narrate the lesson, you know, you are the lesson leader. When you've got the blue badge on, when you speak, people say, hey, cool, pay attention, he's speaking. But you've got the job of being the breakdown van. You know, when you break down on the highway, a sort of car arrives and big van arrives and jump starts you, that key role in the class, you're just looking for people who look a bit lost. And the minute they hesitate, you're at their ear to support them. So, you know, sometimes when you're a lost kid, you say, so I'm a bit stuck. I'll see your hand, I'll get you in a minute. You know, how often have you heard I'll get you in a minute? You know? And it's 10 minutes, you know, 10 minutes you weren't learning. So the breakdown van arrives, if you're stuck, you're looking for his badge. And the third person, the key person, is that differentiator. You're stretching and broadening. You're looking at the kids who are coasting and saying, look, I know you know this stuff already. I know you're really into this, but I know you really care about surfing. So let's try and imagine the physics of surfing for a moment. And you're just stretching this into, do you remember when a teacher said to you when you were a kid, I'm not supposed to tell you this, but I'm going to tell you it anyway. You're not supposed to know till next year. It's exhilarating, you know. So that's your, you know, your key role. Those 3 teachers together are only doing what good teachers do. Good teachers do all that in series, but 3 teachers in parallel do it so much better, so much faster. 3 terms to do 5 terms work, spectacular. And it's great fun as teachers working together. Then you mix it up, next time you swap the roles. You have to declare your roles, you write them on the board, you wear the badges, detail, 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 you know. But this stuff really, really does work. And by the way, if you're a kid and you don't want to be doing group work, because there's a lot of group work, but today you just want to get your head down and do something that's very private to you, the me bit rather than the we bit, you know, you're going to have a go at writing a love poem and you really don't want your friends to see because you're never going to hear the last of it. You just want to be there studying. You sit at a red desk, you just colour code, you sit at the red desk, you're saying to your friends, I want to be alone. Lots of little details make all this work, but super classes, mix it up, keep it fresh, surprise the children. If you astonish the children with the learning, they will astonish you right back with what they do. If you bore them with the learning, you will be dismayed by what they produce. Common sense, isn't it? So try super classes, try immersion, try shoeless days. Here they are, look, there's a lad in Denmark with a most unlikely pair of trousers. That passes as fashion in Denmark, you know. Look for other places to put learning. You've got shops shutting here too, even in Boomtown, Perth, you've got shops shutting. And grab hold of one, you know, fill it up with an exhibition of your children's best work. Get the kids on a rota so that they spend half a day defending the quality of the work that's there. You know, have you seen how good kids' work is? Have you seen primary school kids' video? Blimey, let's take 10 seconds to, oh look, you know, your kids are doing fab enough work, I don't need to show you. But find other spaces for it. I won't dwell on that one, that's long enough. Listen to their voice. At the end of this afternoon, I'm going to come back to learn a voice. But how many of you use children as part of the interview process when you're appointing new staff? Oh, blimey. Good, thank you. You win the camera, you know. Oh, golly gosh, you said, we'll come back to that then for sure. We have children sitting at the back of class doing lesson observations, making notes on the teaching they've seen and feeding it back to the teacher. We've got kids whipping phones out of when they see exceptional teaching, they whip a phone out of their pocket and they video it for posterity. And the teachers say, oh, you got your camera out, thanks. It's that good, is it? You know. Golly gosh, you cannot do this without the children's engagement. And there are formal, nice, good ways of doing that. The formal, nice ways do not include a school's council. Taking 10 kids that the others hate and asking their opinion really isn't going to get you anywhere. That's not, you know. So let's scamper on. Here's another, you have to focus on the throwaways, you know. Actually just getting rid of the corridors is so good. 20 to 25% of the total floor space of most schools I go into are corridors. Why would you invest so much money on moving the children around? In London, All the stabbings of children in London schools in the last 10 years have been on corridors, on stairwells or in gateways. Why? You know, take a large volume, pass it through a narrow opening, is physics. You get pressure and heat. You know, pressure and heat leads to stress. Why would you do that? Kids all moving at the same time. Why wouldn't they move through each other's spaces? Perfectly sensible. So, you know, knock out the walls, win your corridors back. When you've got windows in the corridors, knock out the bit below and you open the learning space that spills out into the corridor. It really, really, really works. Your teaching spaces. If you're a naughty kid, the best thing in your life is to get a couple of laps of the corridors and get into the toilets. It's great, you know. Because in the toilets, you're in that special, you know, that bullying antechamber we designed into school toilets. It's especially designed for bullies, you know. So knock out your corridor walls. Spread out the space. Use the space. It's easy, cheap. You do it in a weekend. This one is fabulous. This is just reverse a car gently. You know. This one's great. The praise pod is just fabulous. East Yorkshire started in primary schools. It's gone everywhere now. If you do praise pod, you'll see there's even software that does this. But you get the kids to, any child does anything excellent in school, any adult. I mean, the people in the kitchens, the janitor, obviously the teaching staff, everybody. Anybody sees a child do something exceptional, they give them a card, and the card says, go to the praise pod, do not pass go, do not, you know how it goes. You arrive at the praise pod is a big chair, a bit like the things you get in those James Bond movies, you know, sort of, and you sit in the chair, there's a camera pointing at it, it's manned by your peers, and they say, okay, articulate your own excellence. What did you do that caused you to be sent to the praise pod? That's a really hard thing when you're 9, to say what you did that was special. But that video goes straight home to your parents. The first year this school did it, 2,200 videos went home to parents. Transforming their relationship with the family. Bullying disappeared overnight. And there's still a lot of people researching why, but every praise pod school reports the same thing. There's something about a praise-rich environment that somehow reduces it from being a brutalized bullying environment. Really special. And the really brave schools are doing the other thing as well. They're doing hero cards where the kids carry cards, and if they see something exceptional, and they only carry 2, if they see something exceptional that the staff have done, they say, you're my hero, chief, you know. And you get the hero card. Now, nobody counts them up. You don't turn up at your appraisal and they say, I see you've only got 174 hero cards this last year, you know, shape up. What you do with them is you put them in a tombola staff meeting. You've got to be in it to win it. You crank it round and you pull it out and you win a bottle of wine, iPad, you know, can of Banda fluid, whatever, you know. Okay, let's scamper on because you're going to think about what you're going to do in your place in a moment. Family learning spaces. You know, build a space that is for family learning. You know, bring them in, put in the toaster. You know, encourage you know, if you've got Somalian kids in the school, encourage them to Skype back to Somalia. You know, build a family learning space. Get families in and engaged in learning. The mumology thing, of course, is fab, but a family learning space like that one in Thailand is utterly fab. Mirror your walls. Places where you've got technology still left facing the walls, and there's plenty of it around. You know, probably there's not so much around now because we're into laptops and thank goodness into tablets. One of the great things about tablets, by the way, is how collaboratively they are. You know, you put an iPad on a desk and 3 children gather around and share it, whereas sitting behind a laptop screen that sort of folds up is a bit more, yeah, and tablets that are, that's exactly like the computer we have on the boat. It's, well, a bit less salty. But if you put mirrors on the wall behind the computers, in the teaching space, the teachers see the screen and the child's face. Teaching a room where the computers all face the wall is just the most dismal thing. It's like teaching Wookiees. You just see those hairy heads, you know, you don't see any expression at all. Just cheap mirrors. Do you have IKEA here? Yeah, just go to IKEA. They do a really cheap wiggly mirror. It's about 2 cents, you know, just bring it back, glue tack it to the wall. It's only plastic, won't kill anybody. And in, you know, literally overnight, you can transform that learning space. Can't tell you the difference. As putting mirrors up opens up angles. Build tiered seating. Can you see these tiered seats? When you've got a group of children in a class and you want to talk to them all together, sitting them on those tiered seats, just like they used to do in science classes when you wanted to get everybody's attention, come up and sit down, I'm going to talk to you all, really powerful stuff. Tiered seating really, really, really works. You can't buy it. It's a technology project for the kids in the school. They make it, handholds, don't put wheels on, just pick it up and walk around with it, bag storage in the back, flip it back. And by the way, the great thing about tiered seating is you start teaching in 3D. There's something about teaching, we always do it in plan, But actually, jump up a couple of steps, you get authority. A child standing 3 steps up has attention. That's really interesting. When you start pedagogy, 3D pedagogy is way different to 2D pedagogy and much more interesting. So, you know, you don't just get their attention, you get a whole new model of learning. You get, look, we could keep doing this all day. I'm probably going to stop with just toilets. Every time I talk to children about what could be better in their school, they just say toilets. But actually, they're right, because the survey evidence is just terrifying. We're surveying it in the UK, roughly 1/3 of our children go through secondary school without using the toilets. It's an astonishing figure. More than half try and get through the day without using the toilets. Why? Because the toilets are full of bullies, they're not supervised by staff, they are, in their words, minging, they're not nice places. But the consequence of that is that they don't drink water. They don't drink water, they get dehydrated. They're dehydrated, they're stupid. Their tongues swell up, so they're less willing to contribute. So physiologically, you know, there's a huge barrier in the way of their learning because the toilets are uninviting. So talk to them about toilet makeovers. For sure, go to unisex toilets. Something civilizing about, and you don't have troughs, obviously, at that point. You know. For sure, if you can, move the hand basins into the cubicles, because a hand basin outside the cubicle means that, well, I don't want to go into sensitive ground after lunch, but you can only wash your hands in public, can't you? So if you've had a bit of an accident, you know. And for sure, make sure that the doors go to the floor. You know, not halfway down a great 1 foot gap under it. In a world where every child's carrying a video camera, having toilet doors that stop a foot short is just, it's the work of perverts, isn't it really? It's just madness. So fix your toilets and your learning will be 10% better overnight on its own, whatever else you do. So I'm just giving you a few things to take away and think about and say, and now I want you to think about what you're going to do. You're going to take away tomorrow and do writing on the desks, writing on the walls, fix the toilets, bring in the parents, ask with your dads. On your table, I want you to commit to something that you're going to have a go at. You've got a bit of time for this, then I'm going to run round with a microphone and hear your commitment. And we might even bring the camera around to them at that point, mightn't we? That would be really good, yeah. So I'm going to come and get you to commit on camera to what you're going to do. And straight to YouTube, no pressure then, right.
Has decided to do that. We've got a huge assembly area that's just been given to us. So we're going to combine, we want to Wi-Fi the whole area. We want to also add e-readers. We're going to do something to the actual outer interior where we can actually place laptops that are connected to the Wi-Fi, and also the e-readers that can be used at recess and lunchtime when the area is also being used for a sporting event. Thank you.
Right, our school is often quite an anonymous building for people that drive by, and they've probably driven by it many hundreds of times and not known what goes on in there. So we've decided that we would like to put some form of billboard. What we would ultimately like is some sort of high-tech billboard, but to begin with we thought a billboard that just gave our website, and it could say something like, have you ever wondered what goes on in here? Have a look. And then we had a second idea. People that wait in our foyer, it's a very dull, uninteresting, boring, septic sort of environment. We thought we might have some iPads there, either on a long chain or Jetstar style beeper that goes off if you walk out the door with it, that people, while they're waiting, can have a look and play around. Thank you.
Hi, the Curtin Centre for E-Learning are all had the idea of the learner voice. So what we're thinking about is having a podcasting teacher good practice, and the students create a brief video or capture an image of either or a snippet of virtual environment, and this gets uploaded to the Student Guild where the students vote, and then both the teacher and the student who placed the nomination gets an award, and through doing this we'll be able to see what students really value in good teaching.
My principal's having conniptions at the moment, but I have it on good authority that we can do this tomorrow. Unblock Facebook. Unblock Facebook. Yeah.
We're just incorporating some things into programs we already have, looking at Praise Pod, and perhaps incorporating that into our existing award system and our blogs, classroom blogs. Going to explore Google Docs in the middle and senior schools, and also involving parents in looking at model reading on class blogs, the reading gigs online, and maybe an early start for parents with a coffee, bring their kids along and do a bit of brain training.
Woo, woo, woo.
We have decided to try and use the library as an innovative place that we can try some of the things that we've learned today. So we're going to go for some non-shoe wearing in the library, and perhaps using markers on the desk and trying to just mix things up a little bit.
I have to... Hospital School Services came here as a team with the new Children's Hospital Planners, and so we're has spent this last session doing some planning, and we're going to continue that on Monday as a plan towards the new Children's Hospital and what hospital education will look like there. But something we want to do in the short term is go for the brain teaser idea every morning, so it's like phys ed for the whole hospital school.
I'm going to speak across three things. One is PLC. What we're going to do is look at breaking down the year groups in the primary school. So we're going to do the large classrooms with multiple teachers in the primary areas. At Scotch, we're going to do the library in the foyer. We've done just putting the books out there in the primary school and seeing what happens. We're not even going to put any security on them, so we hope that works. And from a Cisco perspective, we're actually going to do digital signage, and I really like the idea of having the news with the different subtitles, because we're both IB schools, so we are an international school.
Yeah.
We're going to set up a Skype room so the children can go into and talk to their families who live in various areas of the world, and so children can go in there and talk to people from different countries, because we're very lucky in Australia and we don't know.
Woo.
We're planning on making up a few little safe rooms around the school, just chill out rooms so the kids can go there, take off their shoes if they need to, and use the new laptops that they've been given out.
Cool.
Table 17, Carrinup Primary School. 2 initiatives. One, ideas paint on every desk, so the students can start writing on there with their whiteboard markers. And secondly, we're going to initiate a praise pod. Thank you.
I'm a bit nervous. I haven't done much of this before. So I feel like I'm on telethon, actually. 92211 882 donation. I'm with the Oracle team, and I'm also with Subiaco Primary, and one of our parents is a guy by the name of Adam Gilchrist, you may know, and he's the face of Ronald McDonald House. And we had this idea that maybe the kids Ronald McDonald House helps the children and looks after the kids who are suffering from cancer or whatever, and they stay there for 3 to 6 months, that sort of thing. And we wanted to bring them into our own school community via Skype or some other video conferencing, where they can become less isolated, they can feel like they've got new friends, a whole new community that's supporting them through their tough times, and maybe dial in the country areas that they're from as well, like Esperance and Albany and that sort of thing. That's where the idea started. Unfortunately, I opened my mouth first, and that's why I'm up here, and I'd like to thank the Oracle boys for that. They're on board though, they're very supportive as well. And then we developed sorry to go on for so long, but then we developed maybe some mentoring with Shenton College, where our kids from Subi Primary who go from Year 7 to Year 8 at Shenton College via Skype and video conferencing, they talk back to the kids in our Year 6s and prepare them and mentor them to get ready to go to Shenton College. Thank you very much.
You're a hard act to follow, Barra. Okay, Hamilton Senior High School, we are committed to setting up an e-learning room. In fact, we're so committed to it, we've already ordered the furniture. We have a teacher and a group of fantastically enthusiastic Year 9 students who've spent a bit of time designing it, custom furnishing, something that is really nice, safe for the kids, open spaces to learn in. the parents are being invited in so they can actually start to do some of their learning in there, and we open it up to the community as well. Thank you.
Hello, Table 13, Sensate Solutions and Sensate Education. We are going to certainly practice what we preach and take on everything that we have learnt in your principles today, Stephen, and apply them to the workplace. And we're going to create a 21st century boardroom. In our boardroom, we conduct meetings with staff, with clients, we interview candidates, we do training and have our staff brainstorming sessions. So we are going to put translucent film all over the windows and the wall space so we can draw. We are going to have paperless meetings and make sure everyone in the office has an iPad and collaborative tools so we can capture all of the writings. No desk and no chairs. We're pulling the table out and we'll certainly be a bit creative with some of the furniture. We are going to have shag pole carpet for bare feet sessions and praise pod for staff. Yeah, that's it. Thank you.
For PricewaterhouseCoopers and some others, Treasury and St Stephen's and the department. At St Stephen's School, we are currently introducing a many-to-one program, which means students, staff and parents can bring anything they like and use it in the classroom. As part of that, we are also launching a media and broadcasting unit whose sole job is to get round through all the school and just tell our stories in video and online format. And we're looking for partners to help develop a virtual world in which actually anticipates what each child and classroom is doing and get it out there.
G'day everyone, my name's Callan, I'm from Polytechnic West. We had a lot of great ideas floating around the table, but the one that came up with was we really like the idea of challenging the traditional classroom layout. So we're going to throw out to different student groups that they can submit submissions to redesign their classroom. $20,000 on the table for the best submission, looking not just at the technology, but at the furniture and the decor as well to create better learning environments.
Hi, Table 18. My name's Jo. I'm opening a new school in 2012, so it's been quite an exciting day for me because I'm seeing lots of possibilities and I'd like to allow my staff to think openly and innovatively. I like the idea of the super classes where it adds a little bit of structure to team teaching and can include me as the breakdown girl. Also the use of praise pods to articulate success, and I think that's a really nice aspect to have in a school, and also family learning spaces. So we'll be looking for using some of our unused rooms as we grow. Thank you.
So golly gosh, people say yes but, and they say there's lots of reasons why change can't happen. We've been together for a day and look at that commitment to change. That's what can happen. Thank you very much. Firstly, look, here's a school that just they stopped doing assemblies, and in exchange the kids committed to making a video about all the things that had happened in the school during the week. Video's finished by midnight on Friday, and the kids all agree to watch it by midnight on Monday, and as a result they've reduced the number of assemblies they have in school. Over half the parents watch it too now. It's just fabulous stuff. But I wanted to play this little clip to you just to give you a sense of how engaged children can get in this whole process of learning, because all the ideas you've had, think how rich they are in a tiny amount of time. Think how good the ideas would be from your children if they were also engaged in that process even more than I know some of them are. This is George Mitchell School in East London, where the kids do lesson observations regularly, and this is Andrew Savage, the deputy, telling you all about the whole experience. So go, Andrew.
Trees covered out, and when you looked out of his window you should see the ponds with the but what does the
Making Learning Better was the brainchild of Matthew Savage, who first introduced it into the English department.
On the other hand,
2 or 3 months later he went and told Miss Jeffrey, and she said, yeah, it's a brilliant idea, and it was introduced throughout the school.
Okay, got everyone's attention.
Within English, when I came here, I wanted to transform the way in which English was taught. I wanted to
kind of raise the stakes a bit.
Yeah, haunted. They don't just swim in the pond, they haunt the local pond. Yeah, and the dragonflies, they don't just fly around, they flit.
So MLB started as MEB, making English better. I figured that the best way to find out how learning and teaching could be improved would be to ask the kids. You know, okay, your lessons aren't as fun as they should be. How can we make them more fun? You're not learning as much as you should. How could you learn more? Basically throwing it open to the kids, because my experience in previous schools is that we underestimate and ignore the views of students, of the student community, and at peril. I wanted students to start to provide some input into how we could raise the stakes. I wanted students to help us to make teaching better, to make learning better, to make the whole learning experience a far more quality experience. I wanted them to feel proud, not only of being at George Mitchell, but proud of being in the lessons that George Mitchell delivers.
And of course, the reason why teachers volunteer for that is never imposed, because what you get back is engagement. What you get back are children who talk about our lesson and our learning, and children who recognise the professionalism of teachers. There's nothing like sitting back and watching to help make that judgment about, oh, I start to understand how complex teaching is and I want to be part of it. It's been spectacularly effective. And just to go one step further down that loop, here's a school in Loughborough, in England, where the kids spontaneously look for those excellent approaches. So here's Max talking about his project, and this is just a 30-second takeaway, which will load in a moment, no doubt.
The first project is about working with students to capture outstanding learning from their perspective using mobile devices that they carry around all the time, and to produce that into a formal report and a multimedia report that we can share with others and inform what we're going to do in the future.
We've been asked by our assistant principal to start taking pictures of outstanding learning. So basically, when we see tutors delivering a really good lesson, then we basically record it and say, look, this is fantastic. And we basically describe the lesson, what's going on.
Project 2 is about how we can...
So it's simple as that. You know, the kids, they've got their phones on. Now, the question is, of course, how do you do this safely? You know, you don't just say to the kids, turn your phones on. You don't just say, let's turn Facebook on. You don't just say, okay, let Twitter be out there. And of course, you know, hundreds, probably now thousands of schools around the world have discovered how to do this, and they're sharing that work together. And I've been lucky enough as part of CloudLearn, here it is. This is a research project sponsored by the Nominet Trust, and the project started with the simple view that there might be a safe end to locking and blocking. And the task was to crowdsource all the good ideas from all the schools that are already safely using Facebook in the class. What have they all done together to make it work? What have all the schools done that are using their mobile phones? You know, at the simplest level, if you say to the kids, we'd like you to have your mobile phones on, you know, one great thing to do is when you turn them on, as you come in the class, you put your phones on the desk screen up. Simple rule. So you look around the class, you can see where all the phones are, you see that they're all on, you see what's going on. Phones under the desk, not so good. Phones on the desk, you know exactly what's happening. Put it at the far end of the desk, then you know it's a reach out to get it. This is common sense stuff that schools have discovered around the world. So all the things you've committed to that are exciting. Some of them, if you go to CloudLearn research all goes up at the end of this month. So you should see, what's interesting about it, it's been crowdsourcing all the ideas from schools in Facebook and in Twitter. I mean, using the social media that they're studying as the model for research. So it's a really interesting uni people. There's a methodology paper up there as well that's worth a look. That all goes live across this month. So really have a look at that. And I do think we're in this really nice situation when we've stopped telling schools, we've started asking them. We've stopped saying to professional teachers, this is how you should teach. We started saying to them, what is working and what's effective. What we need back in exchange, of course, is rigour. You know, we want people to try things out and say, we've tried it and this is what worked. This is how we know that it worked. And then we're back full circle really to that debate we started right at the beginning of the day of what does great learning look like. But look, you know, I get involved in making movies and all sorts of stuff. People reshoot movies on the basis that an audience watching it reported that they weren't enjoying it very much. We can use exactly those same rigorous devices to ask our children how learning's working for them. And we can ask them 5 years after they left, 10 years after they left. You know, we need to reach out beyond the school gate and find out how effective our learning was being. That's really, really, really important. So we've got work to do, I think, in terms of making this all work. And, you know, the reason why we need to do it and the reason we need to work hard at it is probably right here, and it's been alluded to by a couple of people during the day. Oh, if I could spell Liberia, that would be better. It's right here. You know, the world's in a bit of a mess at the moment. It's a bit broken. I think you all know that. You go to countries like Somalia and so on, the government's gone. I'm just starting a project there. These are kids in Liberia. They're just teenagers. You can see that like 75% of kids under 25 in Liberia, they belong to gun-toting militias, and 75% of the population of Liberia is under 25. So it's pretty messy. Those kids will put down their guns and come back to school. They will come back to learning happily. But I'll tell you what, after a term or so, if we haven't given them something that they recognise as being of value, they'll pick up their guns again. Because, you know, bluntly, with a gun in the hand, as they'll say, you know, with a gun in your hand, you can eat what you like, you can live where you like, you can sleep with who you like. You've got real power. The power of education has to be better than that. You know, we really have to work hard at making learning seductive, engaging, effective, and obviously the most fun you can have with your clothes on. If we don't do that, if we genuinely don't do that, people won't come back to learning. So, you know, what you're doing must not be expensive. You mustn't ask for heaps of money to do it. You've got to do it with the resources you've got. You've got to harness your parents. You've got to harness your community. You've got to harness your grandparents. You've got to harness your children. Those are the bits that make it affordable. If you try and just do it for everybody, you won't get there. If you do it with everybody, you will. The mantra we chant is that in the last century, you built big things that did things for people. In the 21st century, you help people to help themselves. And that goes right throughout your model of learning. So listen, we've got a bit of a wind-up to come, I think, some conclusions. But my conclusion is really that simple. I'm exhilarated by where learning is going at the moment. I've never been more optimistic. I genuinely think, because I've seen it 1,000 times, that you can inoculate children against poverty with better learning. I genuinely think that kids that hate each other, when they learn together, understand each other and come out of the experience not wanting to kill each other, we can absolutely mend the world we're learning. We won't do it unless you're brave. We won't do it unless you push out the boundaries. Don't wait to be told. You know, I'm asking you, you're asking yourselves, how might we do this better? Just go out there and do it. It's the best possible decade for learning. Thank you very much. Thank you.